Thank you very much. Can you hear me in the back? Just if I try to shout a little bit loud. So my name is Jonas and I'm from the Danish Fashion Institute. We work on two levels. One is to promote Danish fashion globally. We mainly do that through the Copenhagen Fashion Week. That's a separate company and entity within the Danish Fashion Institute. We also work to promote and to prove the business case for sustainability within our industry. And that's where I play a big part in our work. So I'm going to talk to you about scalability. I think I'm going to touch upon issues around measurement and innovation in order to reach scalability. So main challenges for this sector is it's such a huge and complex supply chain that we're working within, which makes it really, really difficult to, at some part, reach scalability. There's a clear lack of transparency in our value chain, especially upstream. It's very difficult for us to come together in forums where we can actually work together to try to solve some of these issues that we deal with in our supply chain. Our industry has a tradition for keeping your insights and your suppliers close to you as possible. And maybe for a long time it's been seen as your core competence. Who are your best suppliers? And if you're working with large issues around sustainability issues in your supply chain, collaboration should be key in order to solve some of these issues. And we've been talking about this idea of the idea of systems change. And here's actually a map of a traditional company, and I'm sorry for you guys back there, but it's actually meant to be a little bit confusing because systems change is about. So thanks for that. But I'm just trying to tell you that sort of the traditional company based in here, and then you have the natural environment and the enabling environment up here, where you have governments, NGOs, schools, access to finance, and down here with the natural environment, sort of raw material sourcing and so on and so forth. And basically this is to showcase you also, of course, the complexity of the industry that we're working in. This could actually go for any industry, but this has been developed as part of the launch project that's also headed by Nike and NASA together. So I'll come back to Nike as well a little bit. But what we don't understand in our industry, in order to deal with this and to actually create systems change, the system that is around us, we need to focus on pre-competitiveness. So again, back to our idea of what makes us competitive as companies in the fashion industry is really looking at our suppliers, and if we're not open about our suppliers, we will never reach this idea of pre-competitiveness. So that's a main challenge for us. And then of course our complex supply chain. So what do we do about that? Well, back in 2009, Patagonia, the small outdoor brand, went together with Walmart, the big giant, to actually work specifically on these issues about systemic change and get our industry together to work on a multi-stakeholder platform within something called the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. And today, 7 years later, the Sustainable Apparel Coalition represents around 40% of the volume of our industry. So it's got Nike and Walmart and H&M, Inditex owns Zara, all the big players, brands, retailers, but also all the big suppliers, also the NGOs, the governments, the design schools, and so on and so forth. So one solution and how to bring this to scalability is exactly to come together in such multi-stakeholder platforms, but also to promote transparency. You've probably seen H&M that has put out its supplier list. It's open, it's accessible. So does Nudie, you know, the Swedish brand. Gap just launched their open supplier list, and there are numerous other companies who've been doing that over the last couple of years. So I'm just going to talk to you about two success examples. It includes the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. I'm just going to show you, here's some more confusion for you, but that's a lot of brands. It's actually all the 140 members of the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, representing these 40% of the volume within our industry. They've come together to produce something called the Higg Index. The Higg Index measures the sustainability impact of each company, but it includes the entire value chain. So it's also both the environmental and the social aspects of sustainability, measured by the Higg Index. So it's a tool, it's a framework for you as a company to work with sustainability. And here's a clear example of how an industry has achieved scalability. In order to work with one tool, to create one language in terms of how we understand sustainability, that is significant because, until this and still there is a lot of confusion about what type of labeling schemes, what are we actually talking about when we're talking about sustainability within our industry. They have made the answer to that, and that is very clear. It now has more than 7,000 accounts, mainly suppliers, but also brands and retailers. It represents 77 countries, and it's just rocketing out there. The other example I wanted to showcase, I haven't got a picture, but I hope that many of you have got the picture in your mind. If I say the Nike Flyknit shoe, yes, can I get some nodding? Yes. The Flyknit shoe was really an attempt since 2002 to find out a way how you could create a running shoe that fits you like a sock, right? Because that's really what the developers at Nike saw, was that the athletes at Stanford University, they found that there was a best running if they just used barefoot. So they wanted to look at how can we actually create that perfect running shoe that feels like a sock to wear. So they actually came together with the engineers, looking at how they could reduce waste. It's so great because it's a one-piece shoe, so it's actually knitted together, and it has 35 fewer pieces to assembly than a regular Nike shoe. And what I just wanted to also notice, because this perhaps is a connection to what we're talking about here today, it also utilizes sort of this kind of high-strength thread that acts like cables on a suspension bridge, delivering this kind of engineered support precisely where it's needed. So I just wanted to bring that forward, and that has revolutionized running shoes. And you've seen the Nikes and the Pumas trying to do, the Adidas and the Pumas trying to do exactly the same like the Flyknit. They're just calling it something different. And finally, I just want to highlight what I believe that other sectors can learn from what we've been achieving within the fashion and apparel sector. This idea, when you talk about sustainability, to have one common language is extremely important. Otherwise, I don't think you can achieve scalability at all if you're not really talking about the same thing. There's too many misconceptions. We used to have around 100 of these different standards and labels, and now we have the Higg Index as one standard, and it already represents the 40% of the industry working with the Higg Index. And of course, within that, like I mentioned, it's a multi-stakeholder platform. You need to get all the stakeholders together in order to speak that one language. And I think for the Nike Flyknit example, it pretty much assembles how you get combined interventions into actually getting the best pioneering breakthroughs and not working separately on your own stuff, so getting together. Thank you.